Hi, I'm Nikki, the Obsessive Bookseller. Welcome to my Read Reading TBR feature for July 2024. A lot of titles to talk about today, a lot of amazing titles, and I would like to start this off by saying I would like to intentionally reduce the number of series that I'm in the middle of, because I think it would improve my reading life considerably. So to that end, a lot of the decisions I've been making over the last month have been in line with trying to read series that I've already started. And a lot of the books that I have new coming up will hopefully be continuations to series, but we'll see. My goal is to reduce the number of series that I'm in the middle of considerably by the end of the year. My goal is 15. I'm in the middle of like 80, but if I can finish 15 series, I think I'll be happy. In any case, we got a lot of really good books read this month. For my deep dive challenge, I read Demon in White by Christopher Rocchio. It's book 3 in the Sun Eater series, and I really enjoyed this one. It's very par for the course, especially the first half. It'll seem very similar to things you've read, but with like new and exciting revelations and whatnot. The last like 10% of this book I didn't love. I don't know if it was too much of a tangent from all of the things that we'd been building for the entire book, or if I was just like not really into it. I don't know. I don't know what happened, but I was lost enough, or disengaged rather, that it kind of brought down the rating of the whole book for me just a tad. But we're still talking like a 4 out of 5 star read, and there are some definite 5-star moments in this book, but as a whole, compared to the first two, which were 4.5 stars, this one, I don't know, maybe a little bit less favorite. I know how to talk, I promise. And then I read People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. After like all these couple of like dense, dark fantasy reads and sci-fi stuff, I needed something lighthearted. Now, I had heard that this one was not as good as Book Lovers or Beach Read. I did not find that the case. I liked this one just as much as those other two books, and in fact, maybe in some ways it kind of stuck with me more, like it evoked more emotion out of me, and probably because the conflict in this one is a lot more like gut-wrenching than in the other two. And I didn't find it relatable, but man, this woman can write. She can really draw you into these characters and their angst, and I love that she does that by making them feel like well-rounded people with different things that they're going through that really shape who they are and how they relate to other people. It was superb. This one, less so than in the other books, had almost everything to do about the main two people, whereas in the other books that I've read, it was more about like how the main character navigated all of their relationships. In this one, it was incredibly hyper-focused. And I didn't mind that, but I am looking forward to getting back to some of those more well-rounded things, because in Book Lovers, my favorite relationship was that between the main character and her sister. But in any case, love this one. I don't even know how to rate these. Like, I stayed up until 3 in the morning to finish this, and ask me how long it's been since I've done that with this fantasy or sci-fi book. So this must have been exactly what I was in the mood to read right now. And for that, it should probably be like a 5 stars, but we're gonna go with a 4. I read Foul Days by Genoveva Dimova. This is book 1 in the Witch's Compendium of Monsters duology. The second one comes out in October, and Tor was nice enough to send me a finished copy, which I am so stoked. This is one of my top books of the year so far, and I finished it too late to be included in that video, but this was so much fun. You know those books that just have that kind of X factor that make you kind of want to talk about them to other people? This is one of those for me. Like, I found myself just like talking to my mom. Hey, this book is so cool. You should give it a try. I texted my best friend about it. Fun elements, great characters, a fun little mystery going on. I really like the monsters infusion. It's Slavic folklore, which, yes, I'm a heathen. I did have to look up like exactly what Slavic entailed. But I like it. I like the cultural infusion. I did a hybrid read. I read it physically, and then I got access to an audiobook, and I thought the audiobook was great. So any of you Spinning Silver Naomi Novik fans out there, I think you'd really like this. And also it has enough elements that I think fans of urban fantasy would probably get a kick out of it as well. But yeah, fun book. Up there with like House on the Cerulean Sea. Like that kind of intangible X factor of fun. And I thought the pacing was great. There were a couple of really good, well-spaced reveals throughout that made you want to keep reading to figure out what was going on. And I just thought it was great. So yeah, cannot wait to read the second one. But this was a massive success this month. Finished The Broken God by Gareth Hanrahan, book 3 in the Black Iron Legacy. And there's going to be more. I talked about this at length in my top books of the year so far post, so I won't go into too many details, but Suffice to say, this is one of the most unique series that I've ever read, and that uniqueness factor is part of the reason why I think it's so memorable for me. Like, I have clear pictures of the names of all the characters, and as I've mentioned, like, I stopped retaining names somewhere around like 5 years ago. Like, I finally realized that remembering the character's name is not essential to enjoying the story, and I just have so many going that's like, whatever. But in these, I remember all the characters. I remember their impact on the story. And even that's saying something, especially since the second book was a little more complex than normal. So yes, highly recommend this one. If you've been waiting until the series is complete to pick it up, like, don't. Read it now. It's worth it. I feel completely satisfied out of the amount of quality story that I've gotten so far. And if and when a fourth book comes out, like, mwah, can't wait. With my patrons Alyssa and Dave, we read Of Darkness and Light by Ryan Cahill. This is book 2 in the Bound and the Broken series. And I was pretty cranky after the first book. I gave it a 2-star. It had a lot of really good elements, but it didn't feel well developed enough for me. And I think I even DNF'd with like 30 pages to go. I just was not into it. But so many things on booktube were like, keep reading, it gets better. And if you look at the ratings of book 2, it's like 4.5 almost. Massively good ratings for the second book. And I gotta tell you, after reading it, I feel the same way about this as I felt about when I read Brissinger early in the year. It's the third book in the Aragon series. Very flowing writing, enjoyable to read. Like, the act of picking it up and reading it is an enjoyable experience, but as far as like plot development and character engagement, it just fell kind of flat for me. And even the dragon, it does not feel like a developed creature to me. It kind of feels like an afterthought. I don't feel anything about it. And the plot felt very meandering. There were scenes that happened that really didn't seem to advance the plot. And also the breaks between chapters, like, we follow a character for a chapter, and it's like a status quo check-in, but nothing happens in that. Like, if you read a John Gwynne book, Malice, every single chapter advances that character's plot in a specific way. And in this case, it was just kind of meandering. And that's probably why I lost any interest in the characters that I had whatsoever. So, like, from a technical standpoint, this one did not have any glaring problems like the first one did. But from an enjoyment, like, am I invested in the story? Like, I think this is going to be the last book I read. And I don't think I want to continue, especially because the plot felt so aimless. And I felt like it needed more structure, that the next book is even bigger. And I can only imagine that it suffered from the same issues as well and needed to be tightened up and like more advancing, because I digress. But this one, I don't know, 3 out of 5 stars wasn't the worst thing I've ever read, but I just certainly do not get the hype. I'm thinking that if you're a character person, like you love characters and you're already invested in these characters, then they could be doing anything and you'll enjoy reading about them. That's the only thing I can think of that's got people so excited about this, because I'm not there. Another read for Project Deep Dive, Behind the Throne, book 1 in the Indranin series by K.B. Wagers. But I liked it. The cover had me thinking it was going to be kind of like a space shoot 'em up opera type of story. Yeah, not so much. It was a political book. Sun Eater, if you take all the politics in that and kind of water it down a little bit, that's kind of how it read. But I happen to love political science fiction fantasy, so I enjoyed the book. I liked the slight little bit of cultural infusion, but I feel like it needed a little more of everything. The one thing I did especially love is that the author seemed to take a couple of things that initially when she introduced them, I cringed. I'm like, oh no, we're getting one of those stories. But then she twisted them a little bit and made them better. And I like that aspect, especially the relationships between the main character and everybody else. It's very slow burn development. Something I don't see very often in these kind of snack sci-fis. So stay tuned. I definitely will be continuing that series at some point. And yeah, enjoyed it. So 3.5 out of 5 stars. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about a couple books that I'm currently reading. One that I don't own, I picked up The Daily Stoic on one of the Audible sales, and I probably should read the Stoicism book first, because some of these little snippets I feel like would reinforce what you would learn in that main book. But just reading them on their own, it's like, I could use, they're like split into 365 days of inspiration, and they're all about 1.5 minutes long. I feel like a 3-minute little snippet would probably stick in my brain a bit better, because like if I get distracted at all, like my goldfish brain goes, what? I have to rewind it and listen to the whole thing over again. So anyway, but that's cool. Next up with my patrons, we are reading The Witcher, The Last Wish by Andrew Sapkowski. I feel like everybody's pretty much over The Witcher, but I bought these really nice editions and I wanted to see if I would like it or not. Like, kind of to justify the purchase, but also to see a little bit what everybody's so excited about. And here's the thing, the first like 10 pages of this book, it was a bit rough, okay? Like I'm like, what am I getting myself into? But then the monster stuff started happening and I'm like, okay, I could get behind this a little bit. I do like the flow of the writing. It seems like little snippets of adventure here and there, and I can see the quality there. But I'm still on the fence. I'm very early to this. For the record, I went in really cranky expecting not to like it, and am actually finding myself curious to see what's going on. I have not watched the show. Also for a deep dive, I'm reading Cage of Souls by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This cover is so amazing. Have you ever had a really good cover cross your path and you save the book and you pick it up and it's nothing like the cover? The cover was lies. It's just really good marketing, but the story sucked. It had nothing to do with it. No, this cover is very indicative of what is actually in the book. I love it. This is so cool. One of my favorite authors. I love him for his creature creation and flora and fauna in his books. And so if you liked what he did in Children in Time, this is like that on crack. Love what he's doing. And I'm almost reading it like behind my hand, like, is it gonna suck? Like I'm gonna get involved in it and really like it and then it's not gonna be any good. No, but with every passing page, I think it's a lot of fun. The only thing that bothers me is like there's some quotes on the back of the book talking about the book. And I just glanced at them like, oh, who cover quoted his book? There are some spoilerish things on there where I'm halfway through the book and there's been no indication of the things that they're talking about on the back of the book. Why would you print something spoilerish on the back of the book? And like, this is the most asinine thing. So I'm a little mad about that because I know what's coming now and I feel like that's messing up my reading experience. But as with most things by Tchaikovsky, so much fun. I do want to give an update. City of Last Chances I reviewed in my last video of this before having actually finished it. I had maybe 2 chapters left. So I gave it a 4-star, and after finishing it and realizing that it didn't really amount to anything, I reduced my rating down to like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. So just coming off of this one and one of the few Tchaikovskys that I didn't actually love, even though I kind of enjoyed the process of reading it, I was really nervous about Cage of Souls for some reason. Like, I definitely suffer from recency bias. A few friends on Fantasy Buddy Reads and I are reading Tekla, part of the Vlad Tolstoy series by Stephen Brust. This is a mashup 3-in-1. Tekla, we're going chronologically. This is about, I don't know, like a third of the way through the whole thing chronologically. And I remember Tekla being one of my more favorite ones, because originally I started the series going by publication order. I got to this one, really enjoyed it, got excited, instigated a buddy read, and we decided to go chronologically. Now, so far, the ones that I read first for chronological have been among my least favorite of the ones that we've read. So if you decide to go that route with this series, just know it gets better. Like, you're not seeing the best stuff. But by the time you hit Tekla, like, I'm really enjoying this one. I dare say, other than Jarig, the first book by publication, which is really good, this one's probably my second favorite so far. So, but I hear it gets better. So this is one of those like snack series that's a little bit of everything. I think urban fantasy fans would enjoy it for the fast pace and the voice, but then it's got a lot of fantasy elements and even just a tad bit of sci-fi. So it's a good hybrid of genres, and they're really short books. And then finally, not for a challenge, but just for my own accord, I needed something light between other things to read, and Star Wars perfect. So I'm reading the third and final book in the Thrawn trilogy, The Last Command, and so far so good. This one has continued to be a lot of fun. I highly recommend the audiobook version of this. And if you finished the Star Wars movies that came out most recently and thought, like, this just really didn't wrap things up in a way that I thought was very satisfying, like, this is the actual continuation, so I digress. Give them a try. So let's talk about a few books that I am looking forward to reading here soon. For a challenge, I've selected A Book That Wouldn't Burn, and in fact probably would have read it already a month ago had my audio copy come in at the library on time, but I've been waiting for like 2 months for this thing. I imagine because it got a lot of positive attention during the Goodreads Choice Awards, which awesome. So I will be hopefully picking this one up soon. I really don't know anything about it other than what the cover and title indicate, but I love book stuff. I love library stuff. Give me that all day long. It could be a person organizing books in this library for like 400 pages, and I would be there for that. Hopefully it's more engaging than that, though. I've got a placeholder here, but I would also like to read Monstrous Nights by Genoveva Dimova, the second book to the Foul Days series. I have a digital ARC. It'll wrap up the series. I am incredibly excited for this one. But the thing is the first book was entirely from one person's POV, and I thought that was great. It looks like this one might be separated out into a couple of different POVs, which I don't love. I feel like the strength of it was in the voice and the fact that we didn't know what was going on in the heads of the other characters. So we'll see how it works. The only thing I'm basing this off of is the chapter heading on the first chapter has got someone's name. And the only reason to do that is if you're going to be switching back and forth. So the jury is still out. The first book was superb. We'll see what the next one does. Kingdom of Death by Christopher Rocchio. I was thinking that after reading Demon in White that I would take a break for a while, do some other things, but I am already itching to continue this series, which is a good feeling. I'm trying to remove myself away from that like have to read mindset where I read what I think should be next in line and just let myself go with the flow and pick up what sounds like fun. I want more experiences like People We Meet on Vacation where I'm up late at night just for pure curiosity to see where the story goes next. And I think the reason I haven't done that with a science fiction fantasy in a long time is because I get myself too regimented. Like, I have too many commitments and I must read things in a specific order or else I will miss a commitment. I'm working to kind of wean myself off of that, but for now, like hopefully within the next couple weeks, I'll let myself start this one because there are some really cool things going on in the series and I can't wait to see what happens next. And last, but certainly not least, for Patreon Book Club, we're picking up Three Kinds of Lucky by Kim Harrison. It's book 1 in a new series from her called The Shadow Age. And this woman's writing to me is so quality. Her stuff tends to read a little more fantasy than urban fantasy, but with all the urban fantasy components, just with that like slow burn, rich development, pacing wise, like you just feel like you're totally enmeshed in her stuff. And like, I am totally sold from just the cover and the author's name. I have no idea what this one is about, but I'm thinking I'm probably gonna like it. So it got picked for book club, so hopefully we all end up enjoying it. That would be nice. I had all these massive ideas of not starting new series after I had already committed to these. So Book That Wouldn't Burn, luckily, is just 2 books out right now. Not too bad. And then the Kim Harrison one, that's the only book out, so it's like a one and done. Cool, we can do that. So that's my lineup. A lot of really exciting books going on. I am definitely focused on quality. Let me know what books are on your radar right now and if you have any standouts. And thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.